Hello everybody, it's Flynn here and welcome to the Flying Circus and welcome also to the E3 Roundup, where we are going this time a little bit more in depth with the analysis, and we're gonna kick off the things with this in-depth analysis right from the beginning with EA Play. Now, as I mentioned in the general recap video of this year, EA went all slim version because this year's E3 was, well, kind of underwhelming. I mean, Sony skipped the conference altogether, and a couple of years back, EA wanted to get their own thing going on, separated from E3 but following the same format. And that is exactly how we got EA Play. But this year, the classic format was dropped, and what we got was a much smaller show on a much smaller stage with a much smaller audience and presenting, of course, a much smaller lineup. And starting all these things right in the reverse order, they have closed the show with Sims 4, that being a game that is already out, and they have mentioned a couple of new updates for it. And I must say, I am not really a big fan of this game, and I was not really interested in what they had to say, especially when they were throwing the inclusivity card all over the place, trying to make a good impression just because it's Pride Month, so everybody would respect them for accepting basically everybody else. Now, this is not really a bad thing, at least just in theory, but when you think a bit more about it, when you try to promote a personal agenda and when you are trying to gain something out of it, just shoving this idea right in front of everybody, it's not that cool. And I must say that this is a very difficult thing to follow when they are just using it just as a PR maneuver. I mean, if you're all inclusive, just be like it and stop boasting about it every single chance you have. But let's just not get fired up about things like this and move on, because on that lineup were one or two indie games that were being announced, but it was all so lackluster that I don't even remember anything. More than that, EA showed a lot of things for games that are already out, like a brand new season for Apex Legends that is going to come out with a brand new legend called Watson, and also a couple of brand new maps that are going to be added to Battlefield 5, which means in this case that we won't see a brand new Battlefield game this year, a thing that could be also understood from the release schedule that the franchise had in recent years. But also, it means that they won't have anything to rival the reboot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare this fall. Another thing that we could see on the lineup were, of course, the usual sports games. The two franchises EA is responsible for, that is FIFA and Madden NFL, were at E3 this year, but this time the showcase of those two games was almost non-existent. Usually in such situations, EA banks a lot on these two games, especially when they need to show something up but the lineup just doesn't really cut it. But with a thinner than ever lineup this year, they didn't even bother with these two, and all we saw about the games were trailers, and that was of course announcement trailers and long talks about brand new mechanics that are going to get added in the games, which is basically exactly the thing that everybody gets excited for. But the piece de resistance of the entire show was of course the Kickstarter. I'm talking here about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, that finally came out with a demo, which in theory is a good thing, but it was not as good as they probably expected, because the last time we saw a single player story game with the Star Wars name on the cover, it was with The Force Unleashed, and Fallen Order from the demo that was shown kinda looks a lot like The Force Unleashed, but with some updated graphics, because all the things that were shown in that specific demo were things that you could do back in the Force Unleashed games, and that is not the right approach for a game of this generation. And about that, I got to see that a story focused Star Wars game really gets me hyped, especially after the fact that Star Wars 1313 never saw the light of day. But in the way that things shape out to be, this is not going to be as outstanding as I and probably many others expect it to be. And with that conclusion being set, that was EA Play for you at this year's E3. And with that being said, Flynn here, over and out.